Dr. Michael Mannino. Hi, Michael.
Hi, Thomas. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm
doing well.
thrilled that you could join me. You are my 100th guest for this program, which was intentional. And my 50th guest was Jim Obergefell. And for my 100th guest, I wanted somebody that is doing significant, important work in the world. And I'm thrilled that you agreed to do this. And folks, I'll just give you a quick intro before Michael shares his values and superpower. But Michael is with Miami-Dade College, a professor of philosophy, PhD at Florida Atlantic University, is the a leadership team lead for Singularity University, which I've talked about on this program, and is a peak performance coach and neuroscience researcher at the Flow Research Collective, which is how we've crossed paths because Michael's done some peak performance coaching with me. I have a lot of work to do. I'm a work in progress, Michael. So, but anyway, been working with me a little bit. And you are a neuroscientist, philosopher, athlete, educator, dad, and husband. So pretty cool stuff, huh?
Yeah.
Pretty cool stuff. Yes.
Thank you.
So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to you, Michael. I'm going to leave the graphic up here and let you share your values and superpower, and we'll chat on the other side. All right.
Sounds good, Thomas. Thank you. All right. Yeah. Thanks for having me. So my four top values are truth, curiosity, family, optimism, and my superpower is interpersonal intelligence and grit. I've always been passionate as long as I can remember, since I don't know 10 or 9 or 8, about truth and about the big questions, and seeking the truth, thinking that we have an obligation to the truth, not just what we believe. We have an obligation to find the facts. And that's why I study philosophy. Philosophy is the love of wisdom. And one of my heroes is Carl Sagan. I was very much inspired by him. My dad is there in the picture. He's an amateur astronomer, or was an amateur astronomer. Doesn't do so much astronomy anymore, but he really inspired me to get into astronomy and study science, and which leads to my next one is curiosity. He really instilled a lot of curiosity about what the world is really like. And I've always been interested in what the world is really like and what our minds are really like and our relationship to what the world is, right? Our human relationship to the universe. And so there's a picture of the moon as well to represent that. Carl Sagan, one of my heroes, as I said it is far, I forget the quote exactly, but he said something like, "It's far better for me to grasp reality as it really is, rather than persistent delusion, no matter how satisfying." Mm-hmm. So that really stuck with me very much so. Another one of my heroes, a physicist, because my bachelor's in astronomy and physics, is Richard Feynman, and he wrote a book called The Pleasure of Finding Things Out. Finding things out how they really are brings so much pleasure, and that just has really stuck with me. And then that, since maybe I said 9 or 10 actually, this picture here, how old are you? This is when I was 7 years old, and I think like 1985, yeah. And I wrote over there, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" and said a scientist. And so I've had many ups and downs, but I ended up becoming a scientist, a neuroscientist, and so yeah, so a very full circle with me. I'm 42 now. So yeah, philosophy is one of my loves. Curiosity. Plato said all knowledge begins in wonder. And it's one of my main intrinsic motivators that has driven me to where I am now, is curiosity. Family as well has always been enormously important to me. And I just recently started my own family. My daughter just turned 1 on July 29th, so there's a picture there as well. Yeah, family is enormously important, and has really supported me and been there for me, and instilled values in me. My mom, my dad, they got divorced when I was very early, but each of them then remarried quite like almost right away. And that was about 35 years ago. And I had a stepdad who just recently passed in March. There's a picture, and my stepmom. So I was kind of raised by 4 parents, and they're all kind of friends. We all play poker still. We all celebrate Christmas together. So that's always been really important to me. Um, and then optimism is my 4th value. I've always been very optimistic and very hopeful about the future, about my future, about humanity's future. Deeply, deeply inspired, and this is related to my other values, by Star Trek. And there's this picture here. Is I worked at University of Miami as director of programs at the Institute for Data Science and Computing. And Gene Roddenberry, the founder of Star Trek, whose oddly enough, coincidentally enough, 100th birthday today, the founder of Star Trek, massively important for social justice and optimism. He went to University of Miami. So when I went to University of Miami, I found out that his son, and Majel Barrett, his wife too, who's also on Star Trek as well, also went to University of Miami. So I was just like blown away by that. And there's a little museum at University of Miami, and Rod Roddenberry, his son, donated all of these memorabilia of Star Trek. So Star Trek is just all about optimism, what the future is like, and social justice. From Captain Kirk and Uhura, the first African American on the bridge of the Enterprise, who was inspired by Martin Luther King. Just amazing. Gene Roddenberry said um, a very, very moving, powerful quote. He said that, let me see if I can get this right. He said, humanity will achieve the next level of success. I'm paraphrasing here. Humanity will progress when we no longer tolerate each other's differences, but take delight in them. And I was just really enormously inspired by that. Star Trek is very optimistic in terms of what humanity can achieve. We can work together. We can embrace each other's differences, and and the technology will help a lot of our problems and help solve a lot of our problems if we get it right. And so, yeah, it's just a very optimistic kind of thing. So I was deeply inspired by Star Trek. That also inspired me to go into astronomy, and then philosophy, and then neuroscience as well. So I was just really inspired by Star Trek all around. The fact that today is Gene Roddenberry's 100th birthday, I just realized that, and made the connection of doing this interview. So I'm so glad I put that in there. And my superpower, kind of double superpower, is grit. I've had a lot of ups and downs. We've all had a lot of difficulties. I think, especially with like getting into a PhD program, and I applied like 12 or 15 times and it got rejected. I finally got into one, and it was an amazing experience. So I had a lot of grit that brought me through that. Some family issues, of course, and interpersonal intelligence. Just I love communicating with people, working with people, understanding their points of view, realizing how we can, come together and communicate and learn from each other. Part of interpersonal intelligence is emotional regulation, understanding other people's mental states, how you relate to them, monitoring, articulating, expressing your own emotions. So all that is part of interpersonal intelligence. It's one of Howard Gardner's theories of the multiple intelligences. And I felt like that's always been, a gift of mine, really, is to be able to communicate with people and understand where they're coming from, take their perspective, share my emotions with them. And I've always enjoyed that. I think it's one of the things that kind of brought me to where I am now, is being able to really understand and communicate with people effectively, I should say. And yeah, so that's I think that's about it.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Wow. Thank you, Michael.
Sure.
That beautiful, beautiful. You said so much in there, but I wrote this down. Take delight in each other's differences. That
Yeah.
is just, that's going to stick with me here. Take delight in each other's differences. What a elevated way to think about that, rather than tolerate each other's differences. To take
Yeah,
delight in each other.
actually,
Yeah.
Actually, it's actually really enjoy the fact that there's so much diversity in beliefs, in lifestyles, in everything, and that's I think a skill that actually needs to be learned and cultivated, and can be learned and cultivated, right? Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And I told you at the beginning I was going to ask you a couple questions.
yeah, sure.
First of all, I just want to acknowledge that the values and superpower are fantastic. Photographs
Thanks.
fantastic. Love the
Thank you.
picture of you with your daughter. Gorgeous photographs. And also really cool to think about this being the 100th birthday of Roddenberry. And of course, you are my 100th guest. Woohoo! Um,
Yeah, that's
so,
amazing.
given all of your background, I have to ask you two questions. They might kind of interrelate as to what you're most hopeful about today, given your optimism, and what does the world look like 10 years from now?
What's his name? I'm most hopeful about the progression of humanity. I'm hopeful that we will overcome problems like climate change. I'm very hopeful that we will embrace and delight in each other's differences. It reminds me of a quote by Martin Luther King. The moral, I think it's by Martin Luther King, one of my heroes. The moral arc of the universe is long, but it curves toward justice. And the way I see it is we are going to answer. We're going to solve a lot of humanity's problems. We're going to answer a lot of unanswered questions. And what I'm really hopeful is about the intersection of using technology to solve these problems. Again, inspired by Star Trek. Those problems of climate change, the problems of neuropathologies, um, uh, things like poverty, and just grand challenges. I'm very hopeful that we are making a steady march to solving these problems, and we will solve them. What the world will look 10 years from today, well, the rate at which technology is increasing itself. And the next 10 years of technological progress will see the last 100 years of technological progress, right? There'll be equivalent. And so it's very difficult to imagine that exponential curve of technological progress, what it'll be like. But what the world will be like 10 years from now, hopefully we will be more connected. We will we'd be well on our way to mitigating a lot of the problems that I just referred to in my last question, like climate change. Um, You're talking about like the global, but what the world, not what my world will be like, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I was talking about global world, kind of what the world your daughter is going to live in, and maybe even longer than 10 years.
Yeah.
But I think about my kids,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
what's the world going to be like for them a generation from now, right?
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
education will be different. I think the model of education, how they're going to learn, will be
Mm.
quite different than sort of the process you and I took, right? Of like the
Yeah.
different levels of schooling. I think technology will really change that. I think she probably won't get a driving license, like a driver's license at 16 years old, like I did. There'll be self-driving cars, and we won't own cars, essentially, right? Like we'll probably that model of mobility will change as well. So I think and I think there'll be a lot of hopefully she'll travel a lot more. I think mobility will be different. She might be going to space, as a tourist, which will be really, really interesting. Um, yeah, it'll be. I think
Cool.
I'm very excited about it. I think it will look
Yeah.
quite different, right? For her time, and I'm very excited for my daughter and
That's a beautiful optimistic viewpoint, right? Because there's so much going on now, and I think one of the reasons I do this program and interview folks and ask them to share their values for a couple of reasons. One is I think I want people to realize that there's a lot of good people out there doing damn good work who are and rooted in some very core values that are real positive and good. And I actually think most people are.
Yeah.
So to connect that way, to share our values, technology is progressing so quickly. It's our values that are going to save our asses. It's
Yeah.
whatever values we just, like you said, delight in each other's differences. It is our values, it's the shared values that we decide we're going to agree upon. They're going to save our butts here, because technology, it's crazy what's going on. I mean, so are we gonna
Yeah.
are we gonna choose the right? Are we gonna get along or not? Basically, right? So
I'm hoping that we can use technology to help ourselves get along, right? um, I think it can be used in that way, like now, right? Like right now, we're using this technology to help get on. Hello, who are you?
what's your name?
Sophie,
What are you doing today
going to school.
for your first day?
Yeah.
What grade?
Fourth.
Fourth. So this is
Wow.
Michael. This is
I,
Michael. He has a 1-year-old daughter. Isn't that cool?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
yeah.
he's a
I'm
neuroscientist, so he studies the brain.
I study the brain. Sophie, nice to meet you. See, this is the picture of my daughter who's sleeping now, but you can kind of see
Oh my
that.
gosh.
That's not safe
Adorable.
for work.
She's adorable. She's beautiful.
Sophie, nice
Well,
to meet you.
say bye-bye.
Hi.
Have,
See, there you
have a
go.
great first day of school.
This is very informal, as you can tell.
That's good. That's awesome. That's amazing. Yeah,
Well,
I should relax a little bit.
Michael, thank you. Thank you so much for your time this morning. We
Thank
just
you.
had a couple coaching sessions, and I was absolutely blown away by the work that you're doing, and inspired, especially your field of work. And I do think all of the work around neuroscience, all of the mental health issues, all this stuff, we're gonna find solutions and help a
Absolutely.
lot of people. It sounds like the work you're doing is just amazing, and so thank you for that work, for making such a big difference, and also thank you for your social justice work, which you shared with me. I really
Yeah.
appreciate that. I know my community appreciates that. But anyway, I hope I get to continue to know you for a long time,
Likewise.
follow your work, and I just want to say thanks.
Thank you, Thomas, so much. And ditto on everything. Thank you so much for your values and sharing your values and doing this. Was excited about this morning. I told my wife about it, and told my friends about it. So
Cool.
it's
Thank you,
yeah.
Michael. Well, listen, I always end the program I always end the program with, remember that even when it's really damn cloudy out, the sun is always shining, and that you are the sunshine. So
Thanks.
that's it, buddy.
Awesome, man.
All right.
I appreciate it, Thomas. Let's
All
get
right.
it.
Take
Let's
care,
get
man.
it, man.
You got it. We're just getting started, right? Just getting
We're just
started.
getting started. It's only the beginning.
All right. All right, man. Take care. Have a good one.